Good afternoon. There are, I don't really know. You know what? I should know this. 670 something days until the 2024 midterm election. But who has time for that right now, Jen Taub? First of all, this is the first Mary Trump Show Nerd Avengers of the 2023 new year. And secondly, a thing or two might be happening down in Washington, D.C. today that we need to pay attention to. And that would be the vote for Speaker of the House. One of the things that strikes me, Jen, and I know I'm not the only person to point this out, but it is kind of mind blowing how time after time after time we give them the Ruth Bader Ginsburgs and the Nancy Pelosi's, and they give us the Brett Kavanaughs and the well, who knows? Who knows? But whoever the new Speaker of the House is, unless it's Hakeem Jeffries, in which case that's a totally different conversation. Whoever the Republican Speaker of the House is, will be a monstrosity, will be a stain on the American government, and will go down in history. I'm going to call it right now, although we can revisit in a couple of months or a couple of years or however long this person lasts, will go down in history as being the worst Speaker of the House in modern history. What am I overstating it?
Look, I don't know what's happening right now, but the fact that they're going to seat this dude, George Santos, tells me all I need to know.
And what does it tell you, Jen?
It tells me that there's been no break at all from the atmosphere that gave root to your idiot uncle.
We could just call him Donald. We don't need to
Donald.
refer to
Donald was in part a symptom, but he made things incredibly worse. There's no question. And there's been no break from him. But to the extent that the Republicans want to pretend, and by this I mean the people who say they're Republicans, and especially Republican electeds, to the extent that they want to say, oh, Trump was this bad guy, we're not with him. Why the hell are they, one, still bowing to him and kissing the ring, and two, allowing someone who is now being investigated for fraud, for a crime in Brazil, who admitted lying, this is not just an embellishment, lying in his campaign, and may also be, it also is being credibly investigated for campaign finance crimes. I mean, this dude should not be seated. So this is a shameless, corrupt, and criminal political party, and I don't have anything nice to say about it.
Well, there is nothing nice to say. And first of all, I neglected to wish everybody a happy new year. Happy New Year. As I said last week, I am so happy to see the back of 2022. It's hard for me to contain myself. Yeah. So, Brian, one of the things that is driving me. Hello. One of the things that's completely driving me up a wall, and I just want to say that if C-SPAN goes live, I think it's definitely worth
watching.
Yes. Just for fun, because honestly, nothing is going to be settled. I mean, it might be settled today, but I think it's going to take several rounds of votes. Oh, we're just hearing that there's the chaplain is in the House. Like, what? Is there a chaplain? That drives me absolutely up a wall. But anyway, that aside, Brian, one of the things that we keep hearing is that it's Kevin McCarthy against the radical psycho right wing, the Freedom Caucus of the Freedom Caucus. When are we going to start learning that they are all the same? I mean, these are the same Republicans that 205 of them voted against birth control protection. I think all of them voted against rooting out extremists in law enforcement and the armed forces. So they're just terrible, terrible, terrible people. They're all radical extremists. They all want to turn this country into a fascist autocracy. They all will do anything to cling to minority power, no matter how much they need to lie, cheat, and steal. So the whole idea that, by bowing to the extremists, McCarthy is pissing off the moderates. There's no such thing as an elected moderate Republican in either house of Congress.
If anyone needs to understand the difference between McCarthy and the rest of the radical right, it boils down to this. Some of them don't rise out of their crypts until after midnight.
I was going to say that the rest of them might have vertebra. But okay, that works. The crypt thing works.
All of them are the same. Just some of them won't rise out of their crypts until after midnight. It's the idea that there's a moderate wing of the Republican Party would indicate that the modern Republican Party has some kind of platform, but they don't. The only thing they have, the only thing that I've been able to do is after covering this particular iteration of the Republicans for the last 6 or 7 years is that that all they care about is getting power, and all they care about are themselves. And after that, they really don't give a shit. And that's indicative in every action that they take. I mean, you had one of them who got shot, for God's sakes. Well, and it was a horrible, I covered that. It was a horrible incident. And yet he still comes out for the NRA, and who is backed by Russia. So,
and not only that, and hey, Danielle, not only that, Danielle, but
hey, Danielle, Happy New Year.
The Democrats didn't come out and lionize the shooter. Democrats came out and supported their colleague.
He's got a lot of support from Democrats during that point.
Danielle, you look a lot like Brian today. That's so weird. I was shifting over to Danielle because we may not have a lot of time before they go live over there. So, Danielle, I want to get your take on what is okay. Our friend and fellow Nerd Avenger, Kurt, was on the Simone Sanders show, basically just putting it perfectly that what we're looking at is a bunch of insurrection denying politicians who are denying that the seriousness of January 6th because it was a dress rehearsal, and they're looking for their shot at trying again and next time succeeding. So, Danielle, we're going to be looking at teams and just it's a complete horror show on the floor of the House today. And 2 years at least of unless we can get rid of the George Santoses and the couple of other people who shouldn't be there. Well, what a stupid thing to say. A couple of other Republicans who might be indicted for some reason. 2 years of kabuki theater and seriously undermining all of the good stuff that the Democrats have done the last 2 years.
I mean, here's the thing, that you can only allow yourself to be as undermined as you're not willing to fight and set the record straight. I think that the role of Democrats right now, led by Hakeem Jeffries in the House, is going to be not only to continue to lift up the things that the Biden administration was able to do and is still going to be able to do while the circus is in town being led by Kevin McCarthy, or maybe not. But I also think that the role of Hakeem Jeffries and others is this needs to be a communications offensive, right? Like this needs to be Democrats allowing for Republicans to do what they do best, which is completely fuck up the country, right? Which is completely decide that they're not going to invest in policies that are going to actually better the lives of anyone, including themselves, that this is all about power. This is all about the show for Donald Trump, the show for the MAGA, set of the Republican Party. And I think that the reality here is that if Democrats, I think that this is actually a perfect time for Republicans to have the House. I think it's a perfect time for them to be, given the gavel. You've wanted it. You've turned us all into either groomers or the devil or pedophiles or this, that, the other thing. So fucking have at it, right? And then it be on the part of Democrats to showcase. So, hey, you wanted to vote for these people. What are they doing for you? How's that going? 3 months in, 6 months in, as we gear up for the presidential. So it's like, let Republicans do what they do best, right? Which is make a mess for Democrats to come in and clean up. But this time around, Democrats need to be the one that are calling the shots up from the bleachers and saying, oh, did you see that? Did you see Lauren Boebert going after Marjorie Taylor Greene? Did you see that Kevin McCarthy has said nothing about George Santos, a complete and total fucking liar and fraud and grifter? Look at what their party has devolved into. And then just sit back, right? Make sure that they're messaging out to the people. And then, but you gave them the gavel, so let them run with it.
Yeah. And Danielle, you and I spoke about this. Or
Yesterday?
did we speak about it? Did we speak about it yet? I'm never sure how these things go. We spoke about it for your new gig on the New Abnormal.
Yes.
It was such a great conversation with you. And we talked about that very issue. One of the beautiful things that not just that they took over, the Republicans took over the House, but they took it over with such a narrow margin, is that gives the Democrats, led by the awesome Hakeem Jeffries. He would have been, I think, if I still lived where I used to live in Queens, he would have been my congressman. The opportunity for some bare knuckles brawling. And we need it. We need not to give a shit what Republicans think or say or what they lie about or anything else. And that way, Jen, we have at least 12 months to empower our base, to get people motivated, and as Danielle just said, to point out what happens when you are foolish enough to put in the hands of these just anti-democratic, anti-American traitors the kinds of power they aspire to.
Is that a comment or a question, or?
You should know me well enough by now to know it's all of those things. So deal with it.
Well, you might know me well enough to know that if I'm doing that shit, that I'm just stalling.
Never.
And look, I just want to point out that the Democrats deliver. And so what I feel like I'm saying is what Danielle said was fantastic, because let them just go at it. They're going to do, you be you, as we used to say. And we can just focus on the accomplishments of the Biden administration. And I think it was Ron Klain tweeted it out, or the White House tweeted it out the other day, but they bucketed what the Biden administration has done in the last year. And there were like 5 things that there's more than 5 things, but there's 5 categories of accomplishments that Democrats delivered, even with a very narrow margin in the House. And why I think that's super important is that we have to point to those things. We have to point to finally, getting insulin prices at, $35 a month at the most. We have to point to the legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, that is getting corporations to finally pay 15%. We have to point to the support for abortion rights, the LGBTQ recognition legislation, the keeping gas prices low. I can go on and on and on, but I feel like it's so important that I should probably have my list right here by my computer at all times. So we say, look, we get stuff done here. And you want, we can have this sort of anti-freedom, fascist, full of hate, full of scare tactics party in charge.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting a flavor. This is your amuse-bouche. What is that? Amuse-bouche?
Amuse-bouche.
Amuse-bouche. I'm not a French speaker. Waj maybe is. And
so something to make your mouth happy.
It was close. You're fancy. Appetizer.
Hold on.
Let me just say. Let me just
Jen,
metaphor this.
Can you hang on one second? Yeah. Just Waj, please turn your volume down.
Oh,
thank you.
So
it was just a little loud.
You know those videos that sometimes you hate watch of like white women doing stuff with Cheese Whiz and baking it inside of a lasagna that gets deep fried and then put inside of a pizza? You've seen those bad videos, right? The baking things, yeah. That's what the Republicans have to offer.
Mom's got to stop that.
What?
My mom's got to stop doing that. I keep telling her.
I mean, I sometimes watch those to go, wait, you can deep fry mac and cheese.
Oh,
and
those. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I mean, there was
one where she made the pasta in the sink was.
But it's when you do all the but it's when you do all the disgusting casserole things inside of a meat dish with some sugar on top, and then bake it, deep fry it, and then put it inside of a cheesesteak, whatever. Those
This is
things,
good for viewership.
No, but what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter how many times they repackage the Cheese Whiz. It still is the same old Cheese Whiz.
Yeah.
They don't have anything other than like, look at, you can't help but rubberneck this car accident, disgusting thing they're cooking up. So I think what we need to say is like, that's super fun. Like watch, if you need to hate watch the bullshit the Republicans are doing, I don't blame you. You know, my jaw's going to drop too, but that's nice. That's like kind of your hate watch. But like for your real life, you would never make that crap in your kitchen, and you should never vote for that. Like that's a clown show. We all need a few clown shows in our life. But when it comes down to like nutrition, a good relationship, reality, let's go with the Dems.
Yeah. And do you guys remember? Well, first I need to clear up there's a burning question that's being asked. This is a sea turtle. First of all. Secondly, I don't typically wear hats. I just couldn't find my flat iron and it's humid. So, anyway, just pulling back the curtain a little bit. Remember when Rachel Maddow would list, I think it was like all of the people under investigation during Donald's term or something like that. And every week, like first it was one whole wall of the studio, and then it was two walls, and then the font became microscopic because there were so many of them. And
basically everyone in it.
Right, exactly. But in a way, it's kind of the same thing, just in terms with the plethora of things. With the accomplishments of the Biden administration, so many amazing things have been accomplished with, again, these ridiculously narrow margins. And while sometimes I think that makes it easier for the other party, who has literally no compunction about lying, to make their message more resonant with more people, because it's unbound by reality. They have no policies. It's all about just attacking. And I think that's one of the problems we need to solve, right?
But you all are making boys into girls, and you all hate God, and you all are trying to make everyone transgender, and you hate white people.
Yep.
So I don't care that Biden administration gave us the Inflation Reduction Act, or gave us a reduction in gun violence, even though we could do better, or is trying to save women's rights. I want my boy to be a boy, and you're going to chop off his penis and make him into a girl and hate white people. And so I'm going to vote Republican.
And seal the
border.
And
of course, I did this with like a straight face. I hope people realize I'm just laying it on pretty thick with the sarcasm, but
Oh shit. Okay, thank goodness.
Yeah. Mary's like, I got to scratch that off today's agenda.
Guess who's no longer a Nerd Avenger?
Yeah. She's like, flat iron hair, get back to turning boys into girls.
That's right.
2023 resolution.
And revoke Waj's membership
where, in the absence of any platform. And I always want to remind folks that it was remember the RNC 2020, there was no platform. They literally went to the United States of America and said, we have no platform. It's whatever Donald Trump wants.
Right.
So when you have one of the two political parties that has no platform, that has no solutions to the multitude of challenges that we are facing as a shared humanity, climate change, rise of violence, fascism, high prescription, bills, like these are things that I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat or independent, you could rally people around this. Like, healthcare should be more affordable. Here's my proposal. I don't like Obamacare, but here's my proposal. And Obama, for like a decade, even now, he's thrown the gauntlet down and says, okay, if you have something better than Obamacare, give it to me. It's been 12 years. They still don't have anything. And so what we're dealing with, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, and you have an example right in front of us today, is a radicalized, weaponized movement that wants power by any means necessary. That is the GOP. And what's really important, I always try to stress this, and I'm glad our show has a sophisticated audience that gets it, And it is a sophisticated audience because Jen and myself and Mary did the first live Mary Trump show in LA. We had a great time. Thank you all for coming and meeting people. And the questions that they were asking were just like really good, informed, sophisticated questions. And even after, like, these are people who care about America. And I was not mistaken for Brian, but I was mistaken for Kurt Bardella. And I represented him really well.
Please
I just put on my glasses, and Brian just told me he was mistaken for me at a New Year's Eve party, and the lady came and gave him a kiss. So your congratulations, Brian, and you're welcome. So it's one of those situations where I think our audience and the listeners, hello listeners, Happy New Year, realize that it's not just Trump, Mary, right? I keep hearing Trump, 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 Trump. It's not just Mary. It's not Donald. I'll learn in 2023.
Thank you.
It's the entire movement. And today, what you're seeing with Kevin McCarthy not being able to muster the votes, and Matt Gaetz coming out torpedoing him, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out and torpedoing them. It's this: the extremists are not extreme enough for the extremist base. And so when you have no platform and you're an extremist party following Donald, what you have and what is so successful, to go back to your original question, is lies, disinformation, conspiracy theories, grievance, violence, and anger. And when you have one of the two political parties that is the manifestation of this rage and grievance, and you have a institutional, if you will, Charlie Browning, and I'll explain this for a second, to this right-wing movement where we always bend the knee, where the rest, it's like they're Lucy and we're Charlie Brown. They're like, will you behave this time? And they're like, sure, we will. And then they always take away the football. You have a situation where we're both siding an extremist movement. And so any small mistake that the left or liberals or Democrats make then becomes equivalent to the 900 obscene sins of the GOP. But I do think, Mary, in 2023, and this is where I'll be hopeful, because they've gone so extreme, because it's a clown show, because they're in disarray, because they've lost so many elections, because it's so egregious, the temptation of the media in general to always Charlie Brown and bend the knee is becoming reduced. The appetite is being reduced. And so this is where in 2023, where when we have that slim majority and we have the momentum, we have to flex. And when Nancy Pelosi says, look what we did, like, we were bold, I'm like, you have to be bolder. So there's a movement where Danielle and I talk about this, and I'll end, is like, if you look at when the Civil War was won, white supremacy bent the knee to the South, and they gave them a chance to resurrect itself. Mm-hmm. And this is where I feel like if we have the brief majority in the Senate, and if the House is in disarray, which it is because they only have a 4-seat majority, Mary, and Biden is president, we have to use all of our levers of power to just, I'm going to say this, crush them.
Yeah.
And so you asked me a simple question. I'm sorry that I connected the dots, but thank you, everyone. Happy New Year.
Yeah, never connect dots. Seriously, like, what's the point of that? First of all, hang on a sec, Brian, because otherwise I will completely forget this extraordinarily important thing I have to say, which is I think we need to start a separated at birth segment here, since everybody seems to keep mixing you guys up. Clearly, you are all from the same place, aren't we all? So, Brian, I totally agree, and we need to stop. I mean, we've been saying we need to stop pulling punches and stop, worrying so much about the kind of language we use. The Republican Party in its current incarnation needs to be crushed, because if we don't crush this Republican Party, okay, do I need to say metaphorically speaking? Oh, fine. If we do not crush this party will crush any hope we have for American democracy or equality or anything good that is what allegedly makes this country a good place to be.
I agree. But 2 points to what Waj was saying. I think their solution, they have no solutions. Their solution is autocracy. They have no solution that doesn't include them taking control and crushing our freedoms. That's their solution. And secondly, the Republican Party today reminds me of a nursery school without a headmaster. They're just a bunch of people that are running loose. pulling at each other's, underwear and crapping all over the place and taking a dump in the middle of the floor, and nobody's there to clean it up. In fact, the only people there are people grab assing and shitting all over each other. It's
What's wrong with taking a dump on the middle of the floor, Brian? Let's come on now. No need to be so aggressive.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass on that, but
they did that in the halls of Congress, so I guess
the simple fact of the matter is, and Waji made an excellent point, that the slim majority that they have is not going to enable them to do much like what they want, and we're seeing the disintegration of this today. If you've got Marjorie Taylor, to me, there's no better show than watching Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Louis Gohmert crapping all over each other. It is almost, to me, like a psychological release. It's like,
yeah,
let them go at it.
Now, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt because there's breaking news. Apparently, one of our own, Wajahat Ali, has won Room Raiders Lego of the Year. Can this possibly be true?
I won the top Lego room of the year.
Oh, it's a whole room, not just one Lego?
This is why my parents came to America, and I have fulfilled my purpose. It is accomplished.
Well, the fact that it's a whole room makes me a little nervous, but awesome. It's awesome. It's the awesomest thing. So congratulations, Waj. I confess, not a Lego. I mean, I appreciate Legos, but it's not my thing. They still impress me. It's like anything. It's like, I'm not a football fan, but like really good athletes who do football, very impressive.
That's right? Van Gogh. That's Van Gogh made out of Lego. I just want to say that.
That's right. Starry Night. Yep. Beautiful, beautiful. So congratulations. Anyway, I think that, I want to take a bit of a step back and just reflect on, you're all pointing out the same thing, and it's that, and me too, that the good thing about the Republicans having a slim majority is because they're going to expose themselves to the American people, as if there hasn't been enough evidence of this.
Literally.
But I mean, I do think, though, it's different when the Republicans control all of the branches, and then it just kind of feels normalized, as opposed to one of these things being not like the others. We will have actually functioning pieces in place while they go ahead and try to burn everything down in the most embarrassing way imaginable. But it is also a destructive way. And it makes me a little bit sad about human nature, that sometimes the only way to affect real change in the long term is to hit rock bottom. And it's not the best way to go forward. But think about it. If the Democrats had won the House as well, or kept the House, they would have owned everything. Even though a lot of the problems, and in some case, most of the problems in the last 2 years have been the fact that there's the filibuster in the Senate, and it's 100% of Republicans putting a wrench in the works. And yet it's like the two faux Democrats, it's the Democratic Party that gets blamed because two faux Democrats don't go along with them. They go along with 100% of the Republican Party, which means it's the Republican Party's fault, right? So, I just think that's worth mentioning. I'm hearing that this makes me sad. George Santos is having a bad day.
Yeah.
He's probably lying to you about it.
The world's smallest
He's
violin.
Not saying a word. He is not saying a word. Yes, exactly. First, I thought you meant money, but money, small violin. And yeah, the fact that he's there is such an indictment. It's such a self-own, because Republicans are hypocrites, and there's no complaining about it. It's just the way it is, and they have no shame. We're never going to change anything about that. It's just who they are. But Danielle, there is something just so egregious about the fact that this is, and forget about the lying, because again, I think in order to be a Republican, you have to be the most mendacious person on the planet. And it, you know what? It's not even the lies about the business, although because we've seen that before too. It's the crimes. I mean, this is somebody who committed crimes in Brazil. He might be extradited. I mean, is he going to, vote from Brazil, a Brazil prison? And there's some potentially very serious, what's it, election? What is it called? Election fraud or finance?
Financial fraud.
Yeah, having to do with the election.
I think that what's sad, like, first, I want to laugh, but I want people to recognize like what a sad place our government is, that Congress is in, that a George Santos could even become an elected official. There was a time, many, many moons ago when I went to go work on Capitol Hill, filled with such pride and such, naivete about like wanting to be a part of making a difference in this country. And like that you would see members of Congress pass you in the hallway and you would have this starstruck awe kind of moment that these are the people who are making decisions, thoughtful decisions, or so you thought, decisions about how to move this country forward, regardless of what side of the aisle that they were on. Now, again, this was many, many moons ago. And so to think that because of Donald Trump, because of the way that the Republican Party fucking laid down for his bullshit, that they allowed the grifting, the lying to become a political norm in this country, a George Santos is right now putting his hand on somebody's fucking Bible.
Wait, did Donald sign it?
Probably, because isn't he in it? To be sworn in, as a member of Congress, just shows you how far we have allowed the esteem and the responsibility and the serious nature of our government to slide over the last 7 years. George Santos is not just a product of where the Republican Party is and how they have just devolved as a party, but he is a symbol of our neglect, frankly, on our democracy and the importance of what it means to be vigilant. Now, I believe that the midterm elections was that clarion call where people finally woke up to the reality that they have a responsibility to be readily vigilant members and active participants in assuring that democracy survives, that it isn't just like breathing until it stops, right? That you don't really have to think about it. I think a lot of Americans realize now that they do, but if we think that Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, and a George Santos are the end and not the beginning, then we are kidding ourselves. And the fact that you have this man, this spineless jellyfish with no stinger and no spine, Kevin McCarthy, this shell of a human that has said nothing about George Santos because he's so fucking desperate for any vote that he can clamor onto, that this is who you are allowing to be the example of who the Republicans are in 2023 as you take the gavel is an embarrassment.
It is, and we can go all the way back to Nixon with this. He didn't get held accountable sufficiently, and then the Republican Party kept making bargains with the devil. They kept thinking, all right, we have this new monster, the Tea Party. We're going to use it to our own ends. We have this new monster, white evangelicals, the megachurch pastors. We're going to use them to increase our power. And then they get taken over by the monster. The other thing, well, actually, I just want Wash to make a quick comment first. But the other thing is that this is yet another example in a very long line of them over the last 6 years in particular, of how our systems are just incapable of fixing themselves. Like the idea that Santos is allowed by the system to become a congressman is not quite as troubling, but almost as troubling as the fact that we currently have dozens of seditionists serving in our government. So, Waj, how are we describing what's his name? George.
So in the
We don't
chat
really know what
section,
his name is,
and
actually.
Mary enjoyed this, so I'll share it with you. The analogy that's been given across media the past week for George Santos is talented Mr. Ripley, and I get very offended because the talented Mr. Ripley had talent, and he got away with it. So George Santos is like the untalented Mr. Ripley, and he belongs in the Republican Party. Danielle's absolutely correct. When you have Donald Trump as the figurehead and leader of the GOP and the conservative movement for the past 7 years, Mary, and a man who lies, a man who's a vulgarian, a man who has multiple cases against him right now, a man who incited an insurrection. And according to the latest poll, I know Republican donors might not like to hear this. According to the latest poll, guess who's the figurehead and leader of MAGA? It ain't DeSantis, it's Donald. And so if you're George, you're like, well, I can lie as well. I'm a better liar. I mean, if there's no accountability for Donald and the base doesn't care, hey, I'll lie about being Jewish. I'll lie maybe about being gay or not gay. I'll lie about my mom dying at 9/11. I'll lie about my parents, my family dying in the Holocaust. I'll just kind of grift from Brazil and have a warrant for my arrest. And I'll take my hand on a Bible, upside down Bible signed by Donald Trump. And I'll get seated in Congress because Kevin McCarthy needs one of my votes because he can't afford to lose any. And what are you going to do? The boss is Donald. He lies more than me. All right, I call your bluff. Tulsi Gabbard, go ahead and shame me. I'm shameless. Nothing's going to happen. So that's me. If I'm George, untalented Mr. Ripley, I'll sit there with a smile on my face, sit all by myself in Congress, and force them to kick me out.
Well, why'd you know? The one lie he didn't tell was when he said he led the Third Army at the Battle of the Bulge. I believe that one.
Well, he did do that. He did do that with the musket.
Yeah, and flew over Fort Henry in 1783 in his own airplane.
Yeah, and he's my dad.
Yeah, but Mary, you said something that was pointed, and I don't want people to miss it because you just kind of dropped it while you were talking about something else. But to the point, what we're all talking about here, the festering wounds that have occurred are all because it started with Richard Nixon. The Southern strategy to win the 72 election gave us and empowered the far right. And Ronald Reagan took advantage of that and the evangelicals to get elected. He dismantled the First Amendment with what he did for the press. He destroyed unions with what he did with PATCO. Everything goes back to Richard Nixon, who created, as Tip O'Neill said, such a stain on the office of the presidency that he feared then in the 1980s that we wouldn't recover from it. And obviously we haven't. The cancer that was Richard Nixon is the root cause of everything you see today, including George Santos, and who's, may be convinced that he flew his airplane, in 1783 and won the Battle of the Bulge. But hey, the rest of us are addicted to reality. And the fact of the matter is, a point that Danielle made and a point that Waj made and Jen made and all of you have made. If you aren't aware of it, if you don't get involved in the game, if you don't put your skin in the game, you're done. And that's been our problem for the last 50 years.
I know Jen's up. I just want to say I appreciate Mary's space because it's a space where we can shit on Ronald Reagan, which is something that needs to be done more frequently in America.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get me started on Ronald Reagan, but we'll talk about him. I mean, there's always time to talk about him. Just it kind of makes my head explode because he was lionized for so long, and now the reason the Republicans don't embrace him anymore is because he wasn't worse, So it's just First of all, before we shift to you, I just want to congratulate Senator Fetterman from the great state of Pennsylvania. That feels good to say. Could you imagine the alternative? Oh my goodness gracious. Jen, I'm just going to leave it. Was that a question? Was that a comment?
I just got a text, but I'm not watching the TV. So a friend of mine who shall remain nameless, a female friend of mine, said, whoever told her to wear that skirt really screwed her. And so I'm sitting here wondering, am I allowed to bring that up? I'm trying to guess.
You're asking live on air if you're bringing up the thing that you want to know if you can bring up.
Well,
okay.
I'm wondering who wore what kind of skirt.
It's like Jen on live in LA swearing, and then after swearing, saying, "Am I allowed to swear?" I'm like, "Well, you might as well."
Well, I'm wondering, did someone just wear some inappropriate outfit?
It sounds like cinema because she's the only person who's consistently called out, if you want to say that, for what she's wearing. And I don't know.
Someone listener, I'm looking at the comments now. Could you please just tell me what skirt? I'm all for wearing cool clothes. I love the best thing about Kristen Cinema are her clothes.
There's nothing. Okay, let's agree to disagree.
We agree to disagree.
Okay, I even like Portia's clothes on season 2 of White Lotus.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
we need an intervention, Jen. We need an intervention.
But I do have a question about that though, because as
it was Stefanik apparently.
Oh, then it's fine. No, I'm kidding.
As long as
it's not fine. It's not fine. Okay. It's not fine. And but I will say this: as you guys know, I do not believe in ad hominem attacks.
Right.
I think it completely undermines your argument. If you
I don't. I just love clothes, so I just want to see.
But I know. But I mean, clothes aren't things you. Clothes are literally things we.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because I'm falling into this. That's not the place we should go. Right.
But I'm not. Clothes are things we choose. Like it's not like I guess you can criticize what somebody's wearing. They chose to wear it, whatever. But to me, it's not about does it look good on them? Do I like it? It's none of my business. It's none of my business. It may not appeal to me, but who should care what I think about what somebody else is wearing or how their hair is or what have you? But I'm talking about are there places where things are appropriate or not appropriate? I mean, I just kind of feel like there's a level of respect, and now we may differ about how that is shown. But for example, if you have the extraordinary honor of being chosen to preside over the Senate for one day, you don't wear a fucking denim vest.
That's true.
That's all. I mean, outside in a different context, not a denim vest person myself, but in a different context, you can say, oh yeah, that's cool. That's whatever. I don't know. I don't know anything about fashion.
That's fashion. Right. If I were going into a house of worship, anyone's house of worship, I would always have my shoulders covered or whatever.
When I was in, the few times I've been in Istanbul or whatever, I always wore a head covering because it's not my religion. It's not my rules. I'm a guest. Exactly. You show respect by doing whatever it is. Just if I'm in Italy visiting cathedrals, I'm not walking in with ripped up jeans and flip-flops.
The Catholics do, so don't worry about it.
But that's their choice.
And even beyond the surface, if I'm running for office, I don't create a cover story and lie about who I am. I mean, that's even worse.
You're a Democrat, so that's different.
Jen and Mary, can I ask a question of Danielle? Danielle, what would happen if you, as a Black woman, a senator from Arizona, dressed like Kristen Cinema?
Oh, you're so cute for that.
Yeah. I'm gonna put that in the rhetorical question category.
I think we all know who is allowed to dress in a certain kind of way and to dress down and to not take the office seriously and to do whatever it is that they like without somebody assuming that you're a thug or you're a homeless person or you're poor or this, that, or the other thing, or you have no class. Or, if I just want to recall when the Obama girls were in the White House and they had 2-strand twists, it was an entire fucking week of bullshit and racism and misogynoir that happened on Fox News. So when I see a person like a Kirsten Sinema or an Elise Stefanik who are performing some type of independence, it comes from a place of white fucking privilege.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Kelly.
good Lord, Obama got grief.
This is
for wearing
I
a
love
tin
this
suit.
conversation. This is so the personal becomes super political presentation, the ability to make those choices. I hadn't thought about the misogynoir angle. Thank you.
Oh my God, totally. And you know what's going to be interesting to see? Just how wide or how deep the double standard is. How's Federer? How's Roger Federer going to show up?
He aces it
Congress?
every time. He aces it.
Oh no!
What did he wear today? What did he wear
Charlotte
today?
should be here for that.
What did Fetterman wear today?
I don't know, but that's my point. Is what if Fetterman starts showing up after he's comfortable in his hoodies and his
Simon says he wore a
shorts?
gray suit. So there you go.
No, he's been showing up in a suit. We all know that that's
Good.
not his thing. So my question is, what happens if it happens, he starts showing up the way he normally dresses? Is it just going to be like, well, you know, that's just the way he rolls, so it's fine.
He should not wear. You should wear no.
But what I have
no what though, Jen?
You don't show up to the floor to Congress like you're hanging out on your couch.
But people do. That's what we're talking about, and the question is, some people literally can't. I'm not saying they would if they chose to. I'm saying they literally can't. Cinema, for whatever reason, can get away with it. And I'm just wondering, like, how deep is the divide between the sexism and, the standards applied to how women dress and how men dress, and the misogynoir, how Black women dress and how white men dress. Like, I'm just curious. I'm not saying Fetterman's going to show up in anything but a suit. I'm just saying, like, he's the first person who comes to mind when I think he's the
Jordan
one.
Doesn't wear a fucking jacket. And it's
can't find any that fit him.
I mean,
that was an ad hominem attack.
Go to the petite store, but like the reality is that what I think is always important to call out is who is allowed to get away with what and when, and we have to recognize that within all of our lifetimes, women who were members of Congress were only allowed in recent modern times to be able to go to the floor without having to wear a skirt, right? And so I think that it's important that like these people, and why I say these people, it is white people who are able to show up in disarray and still be given the benefit of the doubt, still be able to have their power associated with their person. But if people like me or Waj or any person of color were to show up in that type of way, the way that the right-wing media, the way that progressives even would turn around and say, well, that's probably not the right thing to do, the way that it would be a conversation and an indictment on our character and our power is on some bullshit.
The determining factor is Fox News. They and for the last 6 to 8 years, if Fox News, remember, Obama wore a tan suit, that got on Fox News. When they determine, and when they cannot do anything else, if they have no politics to argue, if they have nothing else to do, as Mary pointed out, it's going to be an ad hominem attack. And it's going to be coming from Fox, who will determine what's right and proper and whether or not they make anything of it. And I can tell you for a fact, from walking through the halls of Congress and being in the White House, there are times when staffers will sit there and go, well, what's this going to look like on the news? How will I be viewed on the news? And by and large, it isn't, and I'm sorry, this is a fact. If you want to argue it, go for it. It is not white people who have to have that conversation. That's a fact. Now, you can either accept it or you cannot.
I don't think anybody's disagreeing. I think that's entirely the point.
There are people that will disagree with it, and they will accuse me, and I've been accused when I point out that fact that I'm being woke. And I tell them, if you have to explain what woke is, you're not. This isn't a matter of this is just a fact. There are different standards that are applied in the White House, not only for those who appear in front of the camera, but for those who work in the White House. There are young staffers who, and you will always see, and I will say this, and I pointed it out many times. There are people that are minorities that work in the White House or on staffs in Congress who dress far better than their white counterparts because they will be viewed if they dressed the way their white counterparts dressed, they would not be viewed as seriously as their white counterparts. Sorry, folks, you don't like it? Tough. That's a fact. Deal with it. And the Republicans never want to do it. They always flip it around and say, no, you're just trying to be woke. No, you're just trying to point, and it's them trying to deflect from the fact that they're racists. Sorry. End of story.
No, there's nothing to apologize for. And it's also, it's just another extension of white privilege and what white people get to take for granted. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's
Mary, with the
bad
Congress
for the staffers, though, the young ones. I'm sorry, Waj.
Hang on, quick.
It's really the young kids that suffer the most from it. Once you're elected, there is a certain amount of leeway to an elected official.
Just a quick thing, you guys. Every once in a while, I'll be breaking in because Simon is letting us know some stuff that's going on. Paul Gosar, one of the worst people who's ever existed in human history, just nominated Andy. Sorry,
wow.
I could say that
was the ghost on Ghostbusters. Gosar and
Andy Biggs. Andy Biggs.
And got a few, and Simon said he got a few claps. Andy Biggs and Paul Gosar are from Arizona. They're representatives of Arizona, according to Ali Alexander, the right-wing extremist and gadfly. He helped plan the January 6th Stop the Steal insurrection with, wait for it, Andy Biggs and Mo Brooks.
Traitors to this country.
Gosar is hated by his family.
Yeah, Gosar is hated by his family. Gosar is the one who has openly posted a death threat anime against AOC. Gosar is the one who befriended Nick Fuentes, the white nationalist, before Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald. Paul Gosar is the one who has aligned himself with the Oath Keepers, and Paul Gosar is also the one, people forget the story, about a month and a half ago when someone had a camera on him and they were just posing to be like a right-wing follower. They're like, hey, there's immigrants coming across the border, and I shot at them, and he encouraged them. He encouraged them to shoot at innocent immigrants, and that wasn't even a story for day one. So Andy Biggs and Paul Gosar are some of the most extreme members of the Republican Party that we've been writing about for 2-3 years. And Andy Biggs is the one who really threw down first before Matt Gaetz against Kevin McCarthy to represent what he says is the true base of the GOP, the extremist wing. And the fact that he even got a few applauses probably came from the House Freedom Caucus, right? Probably got it from Gaetz and Boebert. So this is what happens. I mean, it was a prediction of all of us that you used the analogy, Mary, earlier, the monster, right? So connecting it all together, because it is connected, the monster was deliberately created by the Southern strategy. Nixon helped create it. Reagan, McCain, all of them are like, this is our monster. This is our Luca Brasi. We're going to unleash this monster when we want to rile up white rage and white anxiety, but we have the monster in control. We have the monster in chains. Trump came in and said, I'm the monster, broke free, turned on his masters. Well, once you had that, Mary, now you have the Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, Faustian bargain. Well, we have to win, so let's not rein them in. Now you got the Biggs, the Boeberts, the Gosars, the Gaetz, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes in charge of the Republican Party. And Kevin McCarthy, for all of his concessions, is learning what we predicted 7 years ago, that eventually this will not sustain itself. Eventually the monster will eat its masters. And now you're seeing in broad daylight, Republicans in disarray. Like literally, they're not giving Kevin McCarthy the votes. They're willing to torpedo their own majority in the House to placate the extremist base. So this is something where we could sit there and go, oh my God, this is like so ridiculous. Look at Republicans in disarray. But another part of me says, Andy Biggs being nominated by Paul Gosar getting applause is terrifying for our country.
Yeah, and Danielle, let's focus on something a little bit less grim. Can you tell everybody what you just?
I was in the tweets, and people are like, oh my God, Democrats are so united, and they're cheering, and they're so ecstatic, and they're like, who's in the minority? Because we've never seen a more excited minority ever. And then so many of them on Twitter are posting with popcorn, and it is amazing. Like it is, because what did we say earlier? I said, let Republicans do what they are good at, which is fucking imploding, and just like sit back.
And I said, everyone likes a clown show. We can go watch that and then get stuff done on our own. I love that. It's so
somewhere John Boehner is shouting, "I told you so."
All clowns are scary ones.
But I just want to give props to the greatest Speaker of the House in modern American history, maybe in all of American history. I don't know enough about it to say that with any confidence, but in modern history, with hands down, both times, I think the unity we're seeing among Democrats right now, we can lay that directly at her door. She has, remember when it was always Dems in disarray, even when they weren't, but a lot of times they were. It's like herding cats. Republicans always fall, toe the line, right? What Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. Oh, look, that creepy woman just probably Biggs is what my guess, but I could be wrong. Ooh, who did Boebert vote for? Please, herself, probably. She probably voted for George Santos.
Someone voted for Trump, and you know it. Donnie got a vote.
Oh, that would be hysterical.
She voted for her gun, an AR-15.
Oh my God. So, and I think one of the most recent reasons we're seeing this is because Nancy Pelosi lifted up this new generation of Democratic leadership. And for the first time in history, the top 3 Democrats, none of them's a white guy. And that is just so powerful and motivating. She voted for Jim Jordan.
Oh, God.
That's sort of like,
shit.
Oh, another one. Somebody else voted other. This is exciting. Maybe we should turn on the sound.
Yeah.
Can we turn on the sound, Simon? Oh, we did.
Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries.
This is so exciting.
This is really good. I really wish I had popcorn.
Ever watched this?
McCarthy.
Like, I've never watched this before.
I've never watched.
Well, it's like January 6th. Who cared?
I've usually been upstairs watching it live and falling asleep as I hit
McCarthy.
You guys, we've got to do a screen. Can we do a screen cap when Jeffries is ahead? Like if we have that moment.
Burchett.
And by the way, just so everybody watching with us knows, this means that McCarthy will not be speaker.
But how many rounds do they do?
After this round.
Yeah, how many rounds do they do?
Until they have a speaker.
Until they get someone that gets all the vote.
Wait, could this be all night? I mean, do I need to like?
Yeah, it could be. We might have to have an emergency session, like when
this is good.
They're on round 7.
Hey, Mary, can you go press that button and have someone bring me a Diet Coke?
Yes, hang on 1 second.
Kamek.
Oh, I left it in LA. Sorry.
Oh, shit.
Kamek. McCarthy.
I don't know. Is this exciting viewing? I find it very exciting and compelling, but
I love it.
Okay.
Jeffries. Carvajal.
This is the first one I've stayed awake for in the last
Jeffries.
30 years.
I wish I had the roll in front of me.
First speaker of color of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries.
Go Dems.
Kerry. McCarthy. Carl.
Speaker of the House, 118 Congress, Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Carson.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries.
This is better than the Boehner vote.
McCarthy.
I want a close-up of McCarthy with
Carter
one
of
tear
Louisiana.
coming down this cheek.
Jeffries.
Just so you guys know that I think
Carter of Texas. McCarthy.
I think we're one vote away for like a Biggs or an
Cartwright.
other.
Jeffries.
And Jeffries will get more votes than McCarthy if the
Kassar.
trends continue.
Jeffries.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, Danielle, they have a 4-seat
I thought
majority.
it was 5 was.
He can't afford to lose one more vote, it seems.
Jeffries.
No.
I thought
And
it was at
Pastor.
5. So
I
it's
did
only
too.
4?
Oh, wow,
Jeffries.
that's even. And then
Pastor
Santos
of
goes.
Florida.
This is very exciting.
Jeffries.
All right, we're at
Castro
29.
of Texas.
Jen.
Castro of Texas.
Oh,
Jeffries.
Hey,
Chavez
Screenshot of that. That's hilarious.
McCarthy.
she ruined it.
Sherfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu.
Biggs.
Jeffries.
I just want one more for
Cicilline.
Biggs or Stalin.
Jeffries.
Oh my God, this is looking so
Ciscovani.
good.
McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries.
Wait, we have messed this up,
Clark
and
of
could
New
it
York.
be Jeffries?
No, he doesn't have majority.
Oh, right.
He would need-
Unless they
he would
defend.
need
Unless a
four
lot of
Republicans.
Republicans switched.
Yeah.
No, we would
that
just
would
need
be
four.
funny.
No,
Klein.
you just need.
Four.
Don't you just
They
need a
already
majority?
have
Of,
four.
Cloud.
No, he would need the two voting for Biggs and other,
Jordan.
or a couple
Yeah.
voting for McCarthy to switch.
Need
It
about-
would,
at this point, this is done
Wait,
then.
there was another.
That should be done,
It's
right?
done.
Because if Democrats were smart, and I think they are,
Clymer.
Pelosi whipped them all to go.
yeah, they're
Jeffries.
done. It's done.
Jeffries. Clyde.
Oh, this is interesting. They're going to keep going, even though we
Biggs.
know that McCarthy cannot possibly
Putting them
win.
all on the record.
Yeah.
you guys, not necessarily, because if someone's not president, it's the majority. Oh, it's a majority of votes cast. Not
Actually,
a majority.
that- that's
don't
right.
Even vote.
That's
we
right.
don't know what's going to happen.
My vote for the greatest speaker of the generation, and maybe the greatest speaker this House has ever known, Nancy Pelosi. I proudly cast my vote for the next great speaker of the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Cole.
This is insane.
This is crazy.
I love it.
Collins.
I love it.
I
So
love-
there are 6 against McCarthy now.
That's right.
Comer. McCarthy.
I need to know who the others are.
Connolly.
Bobart,
One-
Bobert,
Jeffries.
Gates, Biggs, Gosar for
Correa.
sure. That's what are
Yeah.
the
No.
other two?
I mean, who did they? Who, I
Jeffries.
know Bobert. Some voted for
Jordan.
Jordan. Who did the other two vote for?
Jeffries.
That's what I'm curious about.
Courtney. Jeffries.
This is
Craig.
hilarious. It ain't gonna stick, but God, if it does, I'm gonna
Jeffries.
just.
I know
Crane.
that
Biggs.
all of the Democrats were there today.
Biggs got another vote?
Who did?
Wow, Biggs.
Yeah.
I know
That's
that
scary
all
shit.
of the Democrats are there. Do we know if all of the Republicans
McCarthy.
are there? Because
Crenshaw.
that could make a difference.
McCarthy. Crockett.
All right.
Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar.
I'm going to get it now. Looking good.
Jeffries. Curtis. McCarthy. Davis of Kansas. Jeffries.
Is it wrong of me that I'm so happy right now that Kevin
Davidson.
McCarthy's having the worst day?
I
of his
mean,
life?
No.
this is like
We're all allowed
this
to be
is
ecstatic
really
and petty.
Embarrassing. This is very embarrassing
Davis
for
of
Kevin
Illinois.
McCarthy.
Oh, it's
He
yeah.
gave them everything that they wanted.
Jeffries.
He has basically turned himself
Davis
into
of North
a
Carolina.
human pretzel who's a better contortionist
Jeffries.
than Circus
Dean
Olay.
of Pennsylvania.
Oh, this is like
And they are saying, fuck you.
Well, it's still early in the
this is
vote.
Not the
Chernobyl
worst day of
level.
his life. Worst
Chernobyl
day of his-
Vote, and
level.
I've seen this before.
Jeffries.
Chernobyl level
not
humiliation.
quite
Is what I'm
Cruz.
trying to say.
Yeah.
From the great state of Texas, Kevin McCarthy.
The worst thing is if
McCarthy.
he gets seated, that they just vote to
Delora.
unseat him like in a week. That's
He gave them the power to
Jeffries.
do it.
Del Bene. Jeffries.
Everyone
Deluzio.
watching right now, you have permission to enjoy this and to be petty.
Jeffries.
We've earned this. Enjoy it.
Desanya. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. D'Esposito.
Straw man in New York, Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingle.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries.
Debbie Dingle.
Doggett.
Castle Thunder.
Jeffries. Donalds. McCarthy. Duarte.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards. McCarthy. Elsie. McCarthy. Emmer. McCarthy. Escobar.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Eshoo.
Every vote not for McCarthy is a
Jeffries.
nail in his coffin politically.
Well, except for the dumb vote.
Espayat.
I mean, even if he eventually gets the votes, he's so neutered, so impotent.
He has just been.
Estes.
He's had a couple of his hats removed.
What did we just miss? The clapping. What was that?
Evans.
That was for another vote for Jeffries.
Jeffries.
And I think it
Because
was
he reached
last one.
60.
Yeah.
Ezel.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Fallon.
4th District of Texas votes for Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy.
I'm pulling for others right now.
Finstra.
It's going to be a
Just 'cause-
second vote.
McCarthy. Ferguson. McCarthy.
Did anybody vote for Donald?
Finstad.
McCarthy.
McCarthy.
Paul McCartney?
Fishbach.
What?
Probably guess my vote for McCarthy.
McCarthy.
I really enjoy the
Fitzgerald.
diversity of the Republican House.
It's so
McCarthy.
refreshing.
A lot of different shades of white.
Fitzpatrick.
It's cream,
McCarthy.
it's ecru, it's eggshell.
Oh, I thought you were talking about their ties. They're all red.
McCarthy. Fletcher.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Flood.
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Fox.
Oh, I'm
McCarthy.
shocked she didn't vote for Biggs.
Lois Frankel.
She's vile.
Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates.
Andy Biggs.
Biggs.
Oh shit. What was that? That was Gates?
And he said it so proudly. It's nothing like watching brain dead people stand
Gallagher.
up as if they have.
This is so good.
McCarthy.
The only thing undermining my joy is why
Gallego.
wasn't Gates indicted?
The current vote leader, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy.
But why wouldn't they just stop it and then
Mike
start
Garcia.
over?
The
No, because
record.
you don't know how many people are present. It really,
McCarthy.
we don't know.
Don't they
You have
all
to establish the
present
record.
the first
You
day
have
of
to
school?
establish the record. Thank you, Lodge. They've got to
Yeah.
put everybody on the
Jeffries.
record as to their vote.
Garcia of Illinois.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries.
The funny thing is Gates is going to get
Jimenez.
so many concessions from McCarthy, and
McCarthy.
it's still not going to be
So-
enough.
So
That's right.
plurality
Golden
doesn't
of
work,
Maine.
right?
No.
Jeffries.
Nope. Has to be a
Goldman
Simple
of New
majority.
York. Jeffries.
Dems in array.
It'll be interesting to see what they tied him to for the second round. It's how many deals were made, how many rounds in. Because the first round, you can see where the deal fell.
Gonzalez.
And you're right, Pelosi whipped them pretty
McCarthy.
good. The question is, did they
Vicente
let them off
Gonzalez.
the hook for the second round or third round of voting? And what deals will be made
Jeffries.
behind the scenes
Good
after
of
this vote is
Virginia.
over?
Biggs.
Oh, Biggs again.
Jesus.
And Danielle, to your point, putting them on the record so they know
Yeah.
who to lobby afterwards.
Yeah. No, I get it. I just think it's a
Gooden
waste of
of
time.
Texas.
You know who it was going to be again, but that's just me.
McCarthy.
I like expedience, but I forget it's government.
Yeah,
Josar.
that you don't get in government.
Biggs.
Expedience. What is this thing you call expedience?
I thought that was expedience.com.
Here's Andy
Gottheimer.
Biggs with 7 votes.
Jeffries.
The Nazi wing.
Granger.
Although they're all Nazis, so you know.
You know what's going to happen is
McCarthy.
another analogy. It's like they're going to
Graves of
bleed McCarthy
Louisiana.
so dry that he's going to be like
McCarthy.
Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's,
Graves
like a
of
dead
Missouri.
instrument and he'll
But
willingly
they
do
get
it
to
because
use- But they get to the
Green
thing
of
that people need to
Tennessee.
understand is why wouldn't they pick somebody else?
McCarthy.
Because you can't make
Green
a
of
puppet out of
Texas.
other people in the way
Right.
that you can use and mold and just subjugate Kevin McCarthy,
right.
which is this party is about subjugation. Uh-oh.
Jeffries.
Go
Beautiful.
ahead, Al Green.
Green of Georgia. McCarthy.
Waj, the other thing
Griffith.
is though, after this,
McCarthy.
needs to make even more concessions to the
Jeffries.
outright Nazis.
Yeah.
Grothman.
And he will.
He might start, but he might
McCarthy.
start turning off
Guest.
the other. And again, there's not that much daylight
McCarthy.
between them, but there are people less
Jeffrey.
Nazified. He might
Well,
start
that's
turning
what
off.
Brian was saying. His political career, regardless, is over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he
McCarthy.
may never be able to get a majority.
Harder of California.
Well, we'll see. That's the question,
Yeah.
Mary, because
Jeffries.
we'll have to see what
Harris.
deals are going to be made behind closed doors. It's
Right.
actually a nice insight into American
Zeldin.
politics as it has occurred over the last 200 years. Usually you would see this stuff in the back rooms.
Right.
And they come out and fight and then come out and cast a vote. You're seeing this live, and there's going to be a lot of maneuvering after this vote to see who, if there
Yeah.
is a
March
majority.
Barter.
And
So
how
much
it's gonna
time,
not only-
Brian?
Huh? It's
Brian,
gonna-
how much
Hayes.
time do they give them to come back and to
Good
do
question.
another vote?
That's-
Because I thought that it was like immediate.
As I understand it, that can be voted on the floor. I haven't covered the
McCarthy.
Congress in a while, but as I
Okay.
remember,
Higgins
they
of
can
Louisiana.
ask to adjourn or to recess
McCarthy.
and then come back in set of
Higgins of
time.
New
So
York.
basically, look, we'll give you an hour. You go talk about it, come back, we'll vote again.
Jeffries.
They
Got
could
it,
do that.
got it.
Hill.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see where they take it. But,
McCarthy.
Right.
yeah, Wad, you're right.
Hines.
And what's going to happen,
Jeffries.
Harry, if they make these
Henson.
concessions, I think you're going to see a Boehner-like situation where he just throws it up in the air
Forsberg.
after a set amount of time and says, look, I can't make this work. And at that point in time, folks, that's when the Republican Party will
Jeffries.
disintegrate. And it's going to be like
Hutchins.
watching the kids fighting in nursery school.
McCarthy. Houlihan.
I mean, there's no way
Jeffries.
to know what's going to happen, of course. But I'm just
Hoyer.
interested in your
But the
Jeffries.
good
speculating about this.
Hoyle of Oregon.
Let's say McCarthy can't get it done, and I think there's a real
Jeffries.
possibility that he
Hudson.
cannot. Do you think they look to somebody outside of Congress?
McCarthy.
Trump.
That would be interesting. But
I mean, I'd happily do it. But
Donald.
I think that
Huizinga.
it would be wrong to take it away
McCarthy.
from Hakeem Jeffries. But if
Hunt.
asked, sure.
McCarthy.
No, but seriously, no, I don't know about. I don't
Issa.
think.
I don't think Donald would
I think
do
that
it.
would be. I also don't think it's a
McCarthy.
very well. It's a terrible idea. So
Ivy.
maybe they will. But I don't. I honestly don't know
Jeffries.
who.
Mary, it's literal
Jackson,
disarray
Illinois.
because, as you were mentioning, if Kevin makes the concessions that
Jeffries.
Biggs, who now has 7, by the way, and
Jackson
Boebert
of North
and Gates
Carolina.
want, it is so extreme that it will turn off some
Jeffries.
of the, and I'm not going to use the word moderate, some of
Jackson
the
Right.
Texas.
more sane Republicans who
Just-
have to run again in 2024.
Jackson
Slightly
Lee.
less Nazi.
Yeah, slightly they're half Nazi. They're not full Nazi. And I mean, I've never seen something like this before. I don't know if they can get consensus. Because this is
I don't think
a
they can.
humiliating exercise. This is humiliating theater for the GOP right now, and they still went ahead
It
with it.
is.
Jacobs.
You're absolutely right there. This is actually history in the making. I'm giddy about it because
McCarthy.
I've never seen it exposed like this before.
Jayapal.
And what it's really this
Jeffries.
strips the veneer away from those who thought that the
Jeffries.
Republicans were a normal, healthy, political.
Wait, listen.
They're not.
Go Dems.
What was that cheering? What was
Hakeem.
that? Oh,
Jeffries. Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries.
I mean,
Johnson
it
of
really
Louisiana.
reveals the historic
McCarthy.
incompetence of one
Yep.
of the two major
Johnson
political
of
parties, an
Ohio.
absolute
Exactly.
failure of leadership. Because
McCarthy.
Pelosi would
Johnson
have
of
never
South
allowed this.
Dakota.
No Democratic House leader would have allowed it.
Billion
Well,
years.
McCarthy.
Could you imagine if Sam Rayburn had presided over
Gordon.
something like this? It would not have happened. They put these votes in the shape,
Voice
like
of
we said
Ohio.
earlier, this is usually a very boring, rote thing that occurs.
McCarthy.
Not this. This is
Joyce of
chaos.
Pennsylvania.
It's political chaos.
McCarthy. Cam Logger Dove.
The longer it goes on, the more chaotic. I'm loving it.
Jeffries.
Oh, that's why they were.
Oh, okay.
Captor.
Is that Gates crying?
Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey.
I think it's McCarthy.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
McCarthy. Keating.
I thought that was the moaning.
Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries.
We're such nerds.
Kelly of
It occurs to
Mississippi.
me.
You named us
McCarthy.
appropriately.
Kelly of Pennsylvania.
Actually, Waj named us.
McCarthy. Kana. Jeffries.
oh, this is looking so pretty.
You know what? What'll be interesting to see is how this affects
McCarthy.
assignments on the Hill too, going into
Kildee.
Congress. If it has any effect on that and the power structure inside Congress, this is really unprecedented.
Oh, it will.
Jeffries.
But again,
Killing.
terrifying for democracy.
Yep.
I think it's good for democracy.
McCarthy.
I think it's exposing
And I think-
Well,
the shitheads for who they are. I'm loving
But
it.
I do
Yeah,
I do
of
think that
California.
Raj, you have a point that it is it is terrifying. Like we watch
McCarthy.
Parliament when they're
Yeah,
screaming
Jersey.
at each other, and we watch other
Jeffries.
governments in complete disarray, and it's something. Oh, sorry.
Krishnamurthy.
It's something that we've
Jeffries.
never seen before.
Custer.
And we're handling it a little better than the Brits do. We haven't had anybody punch
I
anybody.
think that we are, but we should also recognize,
Custer.
like, yeah, this is problematic for anything that we
Okay.
think is going to possibly get done.
McCarthy.
I don't think it's going to actually nothing is going to get done.
You know what, Danielle? I think it's democracy in action. It's like we're vomiting. It's like we're retching up and vomiting these people out, and flushing them from the system.
What I meant that was so terrifying for us is the fact that, as Jen was saying, and I think Mary was just saying like a couple minutes ago, you have to be Nazi-ish. You can't be full Nazi. Like the fact that one of the two major political parties is slowly but surely being hijacked by the most extremist members of United States society.
And Waj, let's be really clear about what's going on here.
Jeffries.
The Nazi adjacent people will be more than happy to go full fascist.
Yep.
If that's what they need to do to stay in power. So
they're torpedoing their own party, folks. Look at it. They're torpedoing their own party for sake of their extremist agenda. We're watching it live. Like we've never seen this before.
That's the beauty.
There is a beauty.
Beautiful man, Watch.
No, I agree with you. There's a beauty to this, but also there's the dangerous undercurrent that we should not sleep on. That's all I'm saying.
You know what, guys?
I agree with you.
I kind of feel the way I felt after some of the January 6th committee hearings, that I was very proud of the work and what was revealed, what basically the case they were making, how well they were making the case to the American people.
Jeffries.
However,
Lee of Florida.
The fact that it had to happen was just
McCarthy.
so dark
Lee of
and
Nevada.
so tragic.
Jeffries.
I'm still really happy about all the votes for
Pennsylvania.
Jeffries and the
I'm
fact that the
glad
Dems
it's
are
out in the
totally
open.
in line.
They're exposing
Jeffries.
these people, and Waj, I
Ledger
love you. I think you're
Fernandez.
right, man. But ultimately I want to know who these people are. And put them on the record today.
They're still in power, though. This is the problem.
Let's go.
Not much longer, baby.
Well,
McCarthy.
With
2
movements
years.
like this, I hope, I pray. That's my
McCarthy.
hopeful nature today. New year, starting it off that way.
Levin. Jeffries.
Everybody else is like,
Blue.
McCarthy.
Jeffries. Lofgren.
Watch, you were
Jeffries.
in Congress? How'd that happen?
Loudermilk.
Sorry, it was Kurt.
McCarthy. Lucas.
You're the only ones who can recognize my secret
McCarthy.
identity when I take off my glasses.
Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. Jordan.
It's like a write-in ballot for a dead person.
Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch.
Oh, I love it.
Jeffries. Mace. Kevin McCarthy.
Wait, so Jordan voted for Biggs, right?
Magaziner.
House caucus. Wow.
Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy.
Golf claps.
Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries.
So right now
Massey.
they're noting who's voting what,
McCarthy.
and the whips are going to go after them. You're going to
Mast.
vote your conscience. They probably tell them vote your
McCarthy.
conscience the first round. Second
Matsui.
round, you better toe the line. So we'll see in the second
Jeffries.
round how the vote goes
McBath.
and how it falls out. But you're getting a good idea of the dissection of the Republican Party today.
Jeffries.
And it will be used against them for the next
McCarthy.
2 years if the Democrats are smart. Putting them on the record today is good.
Oh, how the guy can stand
And
without
Can't
his
even decide
spine.
And they're
Hand
going
up.
like
Oh, God.
it's embarrassing. Oh, look at me. I voted for myself, and they're gonna stand up and applause, and
And you're losing.
you're
He's
losing.
gonna get on the second
McCall.
round, I think.
Of course he is,
McCarthy.
because they would
It's
be
the
stupid
concessions
not
he has
to.
to
Plain.
But this is embarrassing for him and
McCarthy.
embarrassing for the party.
McClintock.
He got a new
Maybe, though.
haircut, though.
McCarthy.
Maybe though they had. Do you think that they're sensible enough to say we just have to do this to whip up our own?
Nope.
Nope, they're not. That's not what it is.
Because Jen, they would have done that behind closed doors.
McCarthy.
And the fact
Amen.
that they're doing this publicly
McCarthy.
as a type of theater for their base, they realize they have McCarthy, pardon my English, by the balls. And they
Jeffries.
have
Yeah.
the Republican Party by the balls. And Boebert, Jordan,
Jeffries.
Biggs, Gates are
McHenry.
extreme enough that they're like, we're willing to bring it all down.
McCarthy.
You have to cave to us.
Meeks.
And they're probably going to get the concessions, which is where I say again, that's the scary part. They're going to get the concessions.
Pride of these United States of America, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries.
And it's historic for
Menendez.
Jeffries too. And no
Jeffries.
African American male has ever been this
Maine.
close to being the Speaker of the House.
Oh, and he will be.
Yeah.
Hopefully in 2 years.
Jeffries. Muser.
But yeah, Waj, like we were saying, what's going to happen is the deals are going to be made. They're going to make concessions backstage to these morons that voted for Biggs and the others, and they're holding the Republican Party hostage and will continue to do so, and thus exposing them
Jeffries.
as they have today.
Miller of
When you
Illinois.
put it out in the light of day, that's when it evaporates.
Yep.
Jordan.
It is an opportunity for
Wait,
Democrats
Jordan
to
just
pounce
got
on this.
another vote, guys.
Wow.
Wow. So how come his name isn't up there? How come
Miller
it's just
of
big?
Ohio.
Those are the only
He
declared.
wasn't officially nominated, I don't think.
Miller
Yeah.
of
Okay.
West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks.
Okay.
McCarthy. Mills. McCarthy.
A lot of Republicans' names
Molinaro.
start with M.
Moron
McCarthy.
starts with M.
Molinar.
Look
McCarthy.
at this, running the table on the M's.
Mooney. McCarthy.
Did no Democrats' names start with M?
Moore of Alabama. McCarthy.
This is fascinating.
Moore of Utah.
Danielle Moodie's going to vote for
McCarthy.
Jeffries, though.
Yeah,
That's
true.
an M.
Moore of Wisconsin.
Moody. Jeffries.
Hey, Charlotte.
Hey, Charlotte.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Happy New Year.
Happy Schadenfreude Day to all of you.
Yes, happy Schadenfreude Day, exactly.
McCarthy. Borelli. Jeffries.
Finally.
Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan.
Representing Gary, Indiana, proudly, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. Nagoose.
Colorado second district proudly votes for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Nels. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries.
You know, Mary, what will be interesting
Norcross.
is to see if there really are any moderate Republicans or anyone that would be
Norman.
enticed to throw their support to Jeffries
Biggs.
over the far right in their own party. Will
First
there
of
be
all-
anyone in the Republican Party with stones enough to do that?
There are no moderate Republicans.
None of Iowa.
There are only fascist or fascist adjacent
McCarthy.
Republicans, and to do so, okay, watch the scene a bit. To do so would be political suicide. So unless they're willing to stake the kind of claim Liz Cheney
Ocasio-Cortez.
staked, and it will require 4 of them, not just one.
Yeah.
Ogles.
I think it would be awesome, but I think it's more likely that
Jordan.
McCarthy get it.
You know, it wouldn't. I agree. It probably won't happen, but I won't go so far as to say I would be overly surprised if it did.
Omar.
I think anything could happen at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, look at these numbers.
Owens.
Uh-huh.
McCarthy.
In this,
Jeffries. Palmer.
I mean, if you view it as a strictly a chess match, the next
Banana.
move after this is going to be quite interesting.
Jeffries.
What if they all decided to just go for Biggs? Like,
They
what if
could.
it was to see, like,
That's
okay, let's see, okay, he got
Jeffries.
8, and then people are just like, yeah, forget it. We don't want McCarthy at all. That would be wild.
you know
Yeah.
what, Danielle?
If they decided to go for Biggs, if they did opposite of what I said,
Think about it. I don't know if
Jeffries.
they're strategic enough to think
Pelosi.
like this, but yay, Nancy Pelosi.
world class act.
Aww. I love her. Hooray.
I don't know, man. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw a flip from if they could get
Peltola.
a number of Republicans.
Jeffries.
But what I was going to say is that if the,
McCarthy. Perez.
fascist adjacent majority
Jeffries. Perry.
pick to Biggs, for example, they could do to Biggs what the Freedom Caucus is doing to McCarthy.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're probably not thinking in those terms, though.
No, they're not strategic.
Oh, another vote for Biggs.
Bye,
Peters.
friends.
Bye.
Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries.
The Democrats would need 5. They need 5 GOP votes to switch over, and there are not 5 votes for any Democrat for Speaker.
Well, that's what we say now. We don't know what will happen behind closed doors. If proper concessions are made, you might find. Hey, have you ever heard of a politician selling out?
Ramirez.
If they offer them a deal, there might be 5 that might take a deal.
I have to be honest.
For the speaker that's going to defend immigrant rights, Hakeem Jeffries.
Right.
Jeffries.
If it weren't public, I think that he could get votes, but it is. So again, it would be political suicide. And
McCarthy.
Yeah, what if they decide to make it in private the next vote?
Charlotte, I have a quick question for you because I thought that it was a 5-seat
Rogers of Alabama.
advantage for the Republicans, and Waj is saying it's
McCarthy.
4.
So McCarthy can lose 4 votes, but he can't lose 5.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, so Democrats get 5. If Democrats were able to get 5 more votes, then
And they already did. Biggs and others.
So extremists at this point that any Republican member would basically have to switch parties if they were to vote.
Oh yeah,
for
absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that theoretically Democrats couldn't offer like a package of perks for anyone to switch parties, but it's unlikely.
Yeah.
Very.
Jeffries.
Although that would be fun.
Rouser.
I'm saying it wouldn't. I don't think it'll happen, but it wouldn't surprise me because
it's not impossible.
People will make a deal.
You know what though? This is the thing that Republicans, it started with Donald, don't seem to understand. They could be. They would like, if Donald had saved 1 million lives from COVID instead of killing them, he would have been a hero. Especially in very swingy districts, like the district that Elaine Luria lost, why not? Declare yourself an independent caucus with Democrats. Right? I mean, you'd be a hero.
Yeah.
Because you'd be saving us from actual Nazis like Andy Biggs and insurrectionists, by the way.
This is enormously embarrassing for Kevin McCarthy. I mean, he has sold everything at his store. He sold his soul. And this is the result. It wasn't enough. Right. Did he have a soul? But it wasn't enough.
Well, yeah, probably because he didn't have a
He's
soul.
not going to survive this, by the way. I will bet my entire life savings on it right now. He is not going to be speaker.
Jeffries.
You don't think?
Oh, really? Oh, that's fascinating.
I don't think Kevin McCarthy's going to be speaker.
So, what do you think happens?
McCarthy.
I think Scalise or some other alternative is able to cobble votes. I would not bet on McCarthy.
Do you think that they look outside of Congress?
No.
Okay.
No, there's no way. No, it'll be someone in the caucus.
Scalise would be an interesting choice because of his political viewpoint. Because some
oh my God!
They can talk to him.
Look, catch me if you can. George Santos just voted, even though he should be in a Brazilian prison.
Or a Brazilian
Did we miss Santos? Damn it! I didn't know. Shit.
Jeffries. Schakowsky.
This is so fascinating.
Jeffries.
Now, I do think what's going to happen is on the second ballot, we're likely to see this 18 go down to 6 or 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So a lot of these folks are just making a statement against McCarthy.
I think the others, the others are going to split one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
But for everybody watching with us, it is very important to realize that if things go as they've been going, Hakeem Jeffries will have the most votes to be the next Speaker of the House. And he won't be, but that's pretty flippin' cool.
Jeffries.
I love it.
Scott.
But yeah, Charlotte, you're right. The deals they've all made were just for round one. All votes were guaranteed for round one. Round two's anybody's up. It's
right.
game over. So that's
Jordan
right.
just got another
that's
vote.
get really interesting.
I really need to
So-
know, other than Jordan, who the others are,
Sewell.
because they're not all Jordan, I don't think.
No. There was one for. There was one or two for Banks.
Yeah.
For who?
One for
Five
Jordan.
of
Let
them
me
are
let me
for
look.
Jordan.
Sherman. Jeffries.
Look at this.
There's one for Donalds. Chip Roy voted for Donalds.
Yeah.
Donald. Who's Donald?
Jeffries. Simpson.
Representative Donalds.
I don't know who that is.
It's Byron Donalds.
McCarthy.
Florida 19th.
Slotkin.
That's random.
Jeffries.
Really weird.
Smith of Missouri.
Cohen McCarthy.
Cohen?
McCarthy.
What?
Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington.
What a great job this woman has.
Smucker.
I wish Santos had voted for himself. That'd have been hilarious.
That would have been so brilliant.
That'd have been so funny.
Oh my God. Actually, you know what? I wish he had voted for anybody but McCarthy, because it just would have showed you how weak McCarthy is, because clearly he offered Santos something enormous.
Jeffries.
Because otherwise he too,
Sparks.
he would not be there today.
McCarthy.
Right.
Stansbury.
If you're one of the viewers wanted to know about the vote, it's Jeffries could be the Speaker of the House, but he has to have a majority of the votes present of the people present.
That's right.
So when a member votes present, is not a vote that counts toward the overall total. Right. So theoretically, if enough members were to vote present and Jeffries got a majority of those votes, he could be Speaker. That's not going to happen, though.
That's right.
It could, but it'd be very odd. That
well,
it would.
There's a reason.
It's politics.
I mean, I don't know this for sure.
McCarthy.
Every single Democrat is there today.
McCarthy.
My guess is, and I'm not certain of this, is that every single Republican is there today.
McCarthy.
I'm pretty sure that will continue to be the case.
Yeah, and there's nothing more odd, strange, and alluringly freakish than the entire U.S. Congress gathered in one location voting. Loud. It's if you took acid at Woodstock, you wouldn't expect this today.
Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy.
I can't wait to see the second act.
Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano.
Madam Clerk, I am with Team Hakeem Sekou
Jeffries. Tenning.
I want a beer with that guy.
McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California.
So just a reminder to folks, there's one vacancy in the Democratic caucus for Donald McKeechin, the congressman who died last month, or died in November.
Jeffries.
Right.
Yeah, that special election will not be until next month. So currently, Democrats are down one seat.
Yep.
Tiffany.
Thank you for reminding us, because I would have driven me insane when the numbers. Wait, did a Democrat vote for McCarthy? Yeah.
So the threshold is 5 and 6 instead of 4 and 5. That's what you're saying.
Yep.
Jeffries.
Well, I don't think it. Yeah.
Takuda.
19.
I just love how much fun the Democrats are having.
Tonko.
Right. If you knew nothing about the midterm results and you were just watching the floor proceedings for the past hour, you would think Democrats had won the House in a round.
Jeffries.
You absolutely would. And
the GOP looks depressed, looks divided.
Torres of New York.
And you know what, Charlotte? I think it is important to point out that the Democrats, at least in a lot of ways that mattered, did win in a round.
Jeffries.
Right?
Yes.
And the reason why the GOP doesn't look so good, Charlotte, is because, as I said, most of them usually don't rise until the sun goes down. So that's they don't look good at sunup.
Jeffries.
The vampires they are.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
McCarthy.
200.
Well, George Santos' mother is a vampire. I mean, she's died multiple times now, so.
It's
McCarthy.
documented.
Yeah.
Van Dyne. McCarthy.
This is so
Van
cool.
Orden.
I
saw a question in the comments. There are 435 seats.
434. 435 seats and 434 voting members because Donald McEachin's dead.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
So McCarthy's or the magic number is 217, right?
218.
Sorry, I knew that. 218.
Jeffries.
You still need 218.
Velasquez.
Right.
The one and only Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Wagner.
He's closer.
McCarthy.
Yeah.
He's going to come out of this with the most votes. It's so awesome.
McCarthy.
This
Walls.
is wild, y'all.
Wouldn't it be awesome if McCarthy didn't even break 200?
McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz.
Folks, this has not happened in 100 years.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, right?
Waters.
Never has occurred in front of a television.
Jeffries.
No.
Never live for the whole nation to see. And those that I've covered in the past have been very, very nothing like this. Very cut and dried almost.
Jeffries.
And
Weber of Texas.
I think it's really important that the American people get
Webster
to
of
see
Florida.
right out of the gate just what a shit show
McCarthy.
this Republican caucus is,
Winstrup.
and how united Democrats are.
Right.
Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton.
Well, it's a great exposure of the democratic
Jeffries.
process. You're absolutely right there,
Wild.
Mary.
Unity with all of my Democratic brothers and sisters, because we know how to get things done. I vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries.
This is so.
Williams of New York. McCarthy. Williams of Texas. McCarthy.
It's like watching an NFL game. We're trying to come back at the end.
It's like watching a Lions game, though.
Right?
I don't know.
Jeffries.
Jesus, this is so cool.
Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy.
All the way.
Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy.
Damn it. I didn't want him to get 200.
McCarthy.
Did he break 200?
Zinke.
Yeah.
Ugh.
McCarthy.
That's it.
God bless her patience, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know, like I
somebody
said.
else does it next time. She looks pissed off. That's it. Oh my.
That's wild.
Wait, that's all there are?
Yeah.
Does that add up?
Yeah.
To what we thought?
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Most
220
reporting said there would be about
32. That's 2 non-voting members, or 3. I'm sorry, 19.
It's 242.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's supposed to be. I mean, sorry, 442.
Yeah. 430.
434 total votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 people were missing.
2 people.
Oh my God, I can't add. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
4.
There are 2 missing.
That wasn't fair.
432 instead of 434 because there's 435 seats, but 1 dead guy.
I wonder.
0, 12. I have.
Okay, now I'm confused.
I'm so confused because I have 432.
Right, and there should be 434
Oh,
voting.
okay. So one person's dead and one person is not there.
No, there's
No, no, no.
435 seats.
people
One
not
person's
voting.
dead
Oh.
and 2 people didn't vote.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, so 2 no votes, which means they're not there. Otherwise, they would have voted present. Yes.
2 absences. 2 absent votes.
2 people were not even there.
I cannot express to you how nauseating this just seeing these people. Jim Jordan in particular. Oh, look, he's wearing a suit jacket. What a guy.
He doesn't look healthy.
He never does.
He never did. That's right.
It's like a
Jim Jordan and healthy aren't exactly 2 words that go together.
So it looks like McCarthy looks confident, but should he not?
Well,
he should. I'm amazed that he's like.
Oh, Stefanik's not even
not
talking to him. Did you see
crawling
that?
into a hole.
She
because
just walked past him.
This is one of the greatest humiliations in congressional history. So it just shows you how soulless he is. That he's like, hey, or he knows something we don't know.
So he can lose 4 votes. He can lose a total of 4 in his caucus. If what we're likely to see is it's likely to, there's likely to be people who vote for him in the next ballot because this is a statement vote on this first ballot.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I'm
Now the
not sure
deals
it's going to
come
make a
in.
difference. I'm deeply skeptical that McCarthy's going to be speaker. I really am.
In my view, there's no way he wins the next round for sure.
If there's only 232 people present, and we assume the same thing next time, then 117 is the win.
When do we?
432.
432. So
That's what I'm sorry. Yes.
216 would be.
Yes. That's what I meant.
Would be the win.
Well, it also depends on how long this
217
goes
is the
on.
win, and if that stays,
There's no
If
reason.
that's it, now, to take a look at it. How easy, the question is, look at it logically. How easy would it be to flip 6 to go for Jeffries as opposed to getting the larger number to flip for McCarthy?
no,
At some point,
get them to leave.
at some point in time, they can't make that deal with Biggs and those people. At what point in time does the deal, how long do they take to go back to discuss it? And will it make it viable?
No one will flip to Jeffries. The worst thing they would do to the party is just
6
not
people
vote.
is all they need.
Just
So
leave.
are there 6 Republicans who they don't have to flip their ideology? They just have to flip their wallet, which, as we've all seen, is much easier for a congressman to do while still claiming to be that which they are not.
Well, I
So
don't think
at some
anyone's
point
going to put in a
time,
vote. No Republican is going to vote for Jeffries, but they might walk out the door.
that could happen
That's
as
easier
well.
to do.
That's if Jeffries gets the votes. That's probably that could be one
But
way
see,
to do it.
it's not going to happen though.
All right, I have a question. It'd
be fun to see if it did.
432 votes were cast because out of the 435 members of Congress, 1 has died and not yet been replaced, and 2 were not present.
And 2 didn't
That's
vote.
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if those
2
are
didn't
Democrats.
vote.
I mean, we
Didn't
should be.
vote.
I should be able to tell, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Well, how many
they're
people
Republicans
voted? How many people voted for Jeffries?
211.
And how many Dems were elected?
That's what I don't remember off the top of my head.
213, but after McEachin's death, 212.
Okay, so 1 Dem and 1 Republican are not there. Okay, so
if
that's
you
it's
get
kind of a wash.
one Democrat vote and 5 or 6 no-shows from the Republicans.
So my question is for our viewers. I just want to lay this out. If 432 people are voting and they all are voting, and then nobody voted present, they all voted for somebody. The person who's going to be speaker needs a simple majority out of that is 432.
Yeah, so
Is that right?
217.
Correct.
So 217. Okay, so the
That's
number
right, that's
needed
right.
changes if the number present
Correct.
voting changes. So in other
Right.
words, if those 2 people show up, the number changes to 218. It's always going to be a simple majority of people actually there. So the next question
And voting
is,
and not voting present, by the way.
that is the next question. Let's say you have, we have 10 people who voted for the Nazi Andy Biggs. We have 9 people who voted other. Some people there are also Nazis like Jim Jordan. Let's say the Biggs people are just, or let's say half of the Biggs people just cannot bring themselves to vote for Kevin McCarthy and they vote present. That brings down the number of people who actually cast votes to 427. Does that mean that the person who wants to be speaker needs a majority of 427?
Correct.
Okay. So voting present is like not being there, basically.
No, it's not, because you
Well,
need the
that's what
vote.
I'm
No,
a-
no, no,
what
no,
I'm
no, no,
asking.
no. Voting present is for the quorum. So you're there for the quorum, but it's like you were there but didn't vote. So it doesn't count toward.
Right.
That's what
But
Charlotte's
It's only
saying.
among the votes that count.
I
Jen,
mean,
you're
in
absolutely
terms,
right.
It
I
lowers
mean,
the number.
okay,
Yes.
guys. I mean, not in terms of the quorum, in terms of
The vote. You're right.
the vote.
You're right.
It's
Yeah.
still a simple majority.
Yes, 100% right.
And
Yep.
the people voting saying present get subtracted from the number of votes.
They don't get subtracted at all. It's like they abstained. It's
No,
like they're not
they
there.
do.
What she's asking is, so they're say
Oh,
you
subtracted. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Subtracted from the denominator. Yes.
Thank you.
So if you end up with 427, right, instead of 432, basically what you're looking at is what 214 votes.
Thank you. That's
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
That's what
that's
you're getting at.
yes. That's all I was getting at. And now, but if enough people vote present, does anything happen? Like if there's not, like what is it?
All it does is subtract from the denominator, which means you just
Okay.
need fewer.
All right. So it okay. So just simply
So
in
it's
terms of the
fourth-
vote, it's sort of like not being there.
Except that you might need a certain
Yes.
number of people for a quorum. Yeah.
Exactly. But I don't think we would ever get to that point. Unless something really weird.
Well, it's going to be interesting to find out, won't it?
Do we know, like, how do we find out how long it's going to be before they hold the second round?
They could come out and say it, or they may not. You know, the Constitution does not provide any method of you know, in statute as to how these things are chosen.
It's because the Constitution sucks.
It's
But
well,
that's
it was
conversation
supposed to be a
for another
living
time.
living document that needs to breathe some life into it. But anyway, so they need to they will decide. They can change their mind. They can do whatever the hell they want, really. But they usually follow rote, and if they do as they've done in the past, they'll adjourn for a certain amount of time to cut deals. They're talking to each other now. What do I need? What do you need? They're going to go back and forth to each other, going, look, I can get you this, but he's going to want that. And then there's going to be the hardliners that are not going to do anything. And then at the end of the day, whoever mentioned it earlier is right. There'll have to be a decision. I think it was you, Mary, that will, what they say, do I hate this guy so much I'll just not vote, as Jen said, or are there going to be anyone that's going to be moved? What's really interesting is this is democracy at work, and anything could happen here.
Yeah.
There's any possibility. Now we all know what the probable outcome is, but this is a crapshoot. So
Yeah.
they could go in and somebody could say, look, I got a wild hair up my butt, and if you do this for me, fuck it, I'll do this for you. And then they go, all right, and cut a deal. So it depends on how long it takes too. If it's short, then it's already been predetermined beforehand what the second round vote would be, pretty much.
Well, Nancy's
The longer it
looking
takes,
even
the
better
less
than
likely
ever.
It is to have
Yeah,
a
she is.
solution.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. And we will keep everybody posted about when things continue. We'll undoubtedly, I think, this demands an emergency session, I think, depending on how the next when the next vote is, how the next vote goes, etc. Jen, any last thoughts?
Who did Santos vote for?
He voted.
McCarthy.
Oh, I thought he voted for Leonardo DiCaprio in honor of Catch Me If You Can.
Nice.
Charlotte, any last thoughts? Thank you. Thank you.
I just think this is all very delicious.
It is very
good word.
It's delicious and still somehow quite unnerving.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up. Oh, look how I love how happy the Democrats are. It's just the coolest thing. This was unexpected. Like, I'm so happy this happened and we switched over because it was. I find it riveting. So to Wajahat Ali, Danielle Moodie, Brian Karem, Charlie Clymer, Jen Taub. Also, I want to send all of our love to our beloved Nerd Avenger, Norm Ornstein, today. Hopefully we'll see him back soon. And thanks to all of you for joining us. As I said, we will keep you posted. There is an emergency session in our not too distant future. So thank you all, everybody. Stay safe, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.